Hey everyone, welcome to Dr. Sleep. We love creating unique content for you, but we need your support now more than ever. Our channel is facing some challenges, and we really need your interaction. If you enjoy what we offer, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share our videos with your friends. Every comment, like, and share makes a huge difference. Let's grow together and keep bringing you the content you care about. Thank you for your continued support. They say you get used to the strange things out here. I've been a Yosemite Park ranger for over 15 years, and I can tell you that's a damn lie. You don't get used to the weird. You learn to live with it, like a sickness you can't shake. Some nights, when the wind howls through the trees and the shadows stretch too far, I still think about that night. The night I saw it, the Skinwalker. I've told my share of ghost stories around the fire. Weird things I've seen, lights in the sky, hikers who vanish, the staircases in the woods. But this one sticks to me like a bad dream. It was real, and I don't think I ever truly got away. It started with a missing hiker. That's how these stories always start. Name was Ethan Parker, mid-30s, experienced enough in the backcountry to know better than to wander off trail, except he had. The last sighting put him somewhere along Blackwood Trail, an old path the locals didn't like talking about. Bad ground, old Jim told me when I mentioned it. Ain't right, Ranger, don't go up there alone. I should have listened. The search lasted 3 days. We found nothing, no sign of a struggle, no tracks leading off trail, just gone. The only weird thing? Coyote tracks. Lots of them. They circled the site where Ethan's tent had been. But here's the part that made my stomach turn. Some of those tracks weren't right. They started as paws, but halfway through the mud they changed, became feet, bare human feet. I told myself there had to be a rational explanation. But that night, alone at my outpost, I had my first real warning. I was reviewing my search logs when I heard it. Crunch, footsteps, right outside my cabin. I grabbed my rifle from its stand and stepped onto the porch. The motion-activated floodlights flickered as if something had just passed through them. My breath came out in white mist. The temperature had dropped fast. Then I saw it, a coyote. Big, too big. It stood just beyond the tree line, its fur dark and patchy, ribs pressing through its hide like it hadn't eaten in weeks. But its eyes weren't right. They were human. It just watched me, silent. And then, in a voice that didn't belong to it, it spoke. "Ranger." I raised my rifle instantly, my heart hammering. But when I blinked, the coyote was gone. The woods fell dead silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing. I stood there for a long time, my rifle steady, my pulse pounding in my ears. I don't remember going back inside. I just know I locked every door and window, kept the rifle within reach, and didn't sleep a damn wink. The missing hiker? He was never found. But whatever had taken him, it had found me. And it wasn't done yet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my cabin with my rifle propped against the table, revolver on my hip, listening to every creak, every shift of the wind outside. I kept telling myself I was just jumpy, that I'd imagined the voice, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But in the morning, the tracks were real. I stepped outside just after dawn, the forest wrapped in mist, and found them, coyote prints circling my cabin. They led from the tree line up to my porch, then veered off into the brush. But halfway through, just like before, the paw prints changed. They turned into bare human feet. I squatted down, tracing my fingers through the indentations in the dirt. Whoever or whatever had stood here had stayed a while, like it was watching me. A shiver ran through me. I spent the morning checking the park's reports. Over the past week, I found a disturbing pattern. Campers reported hearing voices at night. Some swore they heard family members calling them from the woods, even though their families weren't there. Hunters found dead animals, gutted, skinned, but not eaten. More than a dozen, all killed the same way. And then there was the smell. Reports of a rotting stench, like spoiled meat, lingering near campsites before things went wrong. That afternoon, a family staying near Echo Ridge reported something worse. It was like a coyote, but wrong, the father told me, his face pale. It came right up to the fire, just standing there. It didn't act like a normal animal. It just watched us. And then, I asked, It spoke. I felt my stomach drop. It said my wife's name. His voice wavered. It sounded just like me. That was it. I grabbed my rifle and gear and headed out to Echo Ridge. By the time I reached the campsite, the sun was setting, washing the trees in gold and crimson. The family had already packed up and left. Smart. The site was empty, but I could still smell it, that rot. Something had been here, something that didn't belong. Then I saw it. Near the tree line, tangled in the undergrowth, was the half-eaten carcass of a deer. But this wasn't just a predator's kill. The ribcage was cracked open, the skin peeled back in ritualistic patterns. Worse, someone, or something, had carved symbols into the deer's hide. I didn't recognize the symbols, but my gut told me they meant something bad. The woods felt too quiet, pressing in on me like a held breath. And then I heard it. A rustling in the trees. Something moving, watching, waiting. I raised my rifle, my heart pounding. Whatever was out here wasn't just some predator. It was something older, darker, and it had noticed me. I stayed at the campsite until sundown, watching, waiting. The air had that charged stillness to it, the kind that makes a man's instincts flare up like a fresh wound. Nothing moved. No birds, no wind, no sound. I was being hunted. I knew better than to linger after dark, so I took the quickest route back toward my outpost, rifle ready, revolver on my hip. The whole time I felt something pacing me, moving just beyond my sight. I'd spent years tracking predators, mountain lions, bears, wolves, but this wasn't any animal I knew. By the time I reached the clearing near my cabin, the last sliver of daylight had bled out of the sky, leaving the woods a deep, suffocating black. My outpost lights flickered through the trees. Safety was right there. Then the smell hit me. Rot, blood, decay. Something dead was nearby, but I couldn't see it. I gripped my rifle tighter and scanned the trees. Nothing moved, but I could feel it, watching, waiting. I took a cautious step forward. Crack. Something moved behind me. I spun, my rifle already up, but there was nothing there, just empty, twisting trees. Then I saw it, just at the edge of my light, a figure crouched low, half hidden behind a tree, a shape that didn't look quite right. "Who's there?" I called, my voice steady. Silence. I took a step forward. The figure shifted, rising higher. Too high. A coyote, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its body stretched, twisted. Its skin hung loose, as if something else was inside wearing it. Then it stood up. Not on 4 legs, on 2. I barely had time to process before it spoke. "Ranger Rick." My blood ran cold. It sounded just like me. I didn't think. I just fired. The rifle roared, kicking against my shoulder. The bullet hit center mass, a perfect shot, one that should have dropped a deer in its tracks. The thing staggered, but it didn't fall. It laughed, a wet, guttural sound that made my stomach turn. Then it moved, fast. I barely had time to yank my revolver before it lunged. I got off one shot, point blank to the chest, before it hit me. Everything went black. I don't know how long I was out. When I came to, the night was dead silent, the stars wheeling above me. My rifle lay a few feet away, my revolver in my grip, the hammer still smoking. The creature was gone, but my shoulder throbbed, and when I looked down, I saw it, a deep scratch across my arm, not from claws, from fingernails. Pain lanced through my arm as I forced myself upright. My head swam, vision blurred, but I gritted my teeth and checked my weapons. Rifle, loaded, revolver, 2 rounds left. My instincts screamed at me to move, to get back to my cabin. But as I staggered forward, I felt it. I wasn't alone. Somewhere in the trees, it was still watching me. I turned slowly, scanning the darkness. The moon cut pale streaks through the canopy, casting shadows that shifted and twisted, making it impossible to tell what was real. Then I saw them. Eyes, not the glowing yellow of an animal, but human eyes, too intelligent, gleaming in the dark. "Ranger Rick," it said, my own damn voice. A low, bubbling laugh followed. I didn't hesitate. I raised my rifle and fired. The muzzle flash lit up the trees for half a second, just long enough to see the thing's shape. It had been crouching, but now it was standing, tall, too tall. Its body was a mockery of human and animal, with patchy fur, twisted limbs, and a head that didn't belong to any living thing. The bullet hit. I saw it stagger back, but it didn't fall. I fired again. It screamed this time, but not in pain, in rage. Then it charged. I barely had time to throw myself aside before it hit the spot where I had just stood, dirt and leaves exploding into the air. I rolled onto one knee, bringing up my revolver. Too late. It was right in front of me. A long, gnarled hand, human but wrong, shot out, fingers curling like talons. I fired point blank into its chest. The force knocked it back, but the thing didn't fall. It just twisted, landing in a crouch, its head snapping toward me in a way no human head should move. For the first time, a real primal fear settled into my gut. This thing wasn't just fast. It wasn't just strong. It was playing with me. My revolver was empty now. My rifle was out of reach. I did the only thing I could. I ran. Not toward my outpost. I wasn't leading it home. Instead, I went deeper into the woods, heart hammering as I dodged between trees, barely keeping ahead of the thing tearing through the underbrush behind me. It was laughing again, a warbling, mocking sound that turned my blood ice cold. I wasn't hunting it anymore. It was hunting me. The forest closed in around me, the trees blurring past as I sprinted blindly through the dark. My boots pounded the earth, lungs burning, but I didn't dare stop, not with that thing behind me. It wasn't running like a man, it was moving like an animal, on all fours, then two legs, then back again, its twisted body crashing through the underbrush with unnatural speed. And worse, it was still laughing. The sound warped and distorted, shifting between my own voice and something else, something ancient and wrong. I ducked under a fallen log, sliding through the mud, and heard it land just behind me, snapping branches like a freight train through the trees. Too damn close. I veered right, spotting a rocky ridge ahead. If I could reach it, I'd have the high ground. I pushed harder, ignoring the pain in my scratched arm, ignoring the weight of my empty revolver. My rifle was still slung over my back, but I needed time to reload, time I didn't have. The ridge was just ahead now, a steep incline that would slow me down. Crash! Something huge slammed into my back, sending me tumbling forward. I hit the ground hard, rolling through the dirt and crashing into a tree. My head spun, pain flaring through my ribs. I barely had time to react before it was on me. Long, bony hands pinned my shoulders, fingers too long, too strong. I finally saw it up close. It wasn't just wearing skin, it was shifting, its face blurring between features, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. The worst part? For half a second, it had my face. I snarled and threw my elbow up, catching it in the throat. The thing hissed and reared back just enough for me to wrench free. My hands flew to my rifle, yanking it from the sling. It lunged. I barely got the barrel between us before its teeth snapped shut just inches from my throat. I pulled the trigger. Boom! The shot tore through its chest, knocking it back, but it didn't die. It just twisted, its broken form cracking and shifting as it landed on all fours again. It let out a breath, not a scream, not a growl, but something close to a chuckle. Then it ran. I didn't waste a second. I chambered another round, heart pounding. The thing was fast, darting between trees like a shadow, but I tracked it, my hunter's instincts locking on. I had one chance. I took a breath, aimed ahead of it, and fired. The bullet hit. The thing crashed into the dirt, rolling to a stop. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Was it finally dead? I stepped closer, rifle still raised, and then I saw it. The wound was already closing. I stood there, rifle locked on the thing's chest, my breath ragged. The bullet had hit dead center, but the wound was closing, the flesh knitting itself back together like nothing happened. I had one choice: finish it before it finished me. I took a step closer, finger tightening on the trigger. The thing twitched, its head snapping toward me. Then it bolted, not just running, sprinting on all fours, then two legs, then back again, vanishing into the blackness of the forest. I didn't hesitate. I reloaded, heart hammering, and followed the blood trail. It led me deeper into the woods, the trees growing denser, the air thicker. That rotten smell, the one I'd caught at the campsite, was stronger now, like a carcass left to rot in the sun. Then I saw the cave, a jagged mouth in the hillside, nearly hidden behind a curtain of gnarled roots. The blood trail disappeared inside. I hesitated, my gut screamed at me to turn back. But I'd spent too long dealing with the unexplainable. I had to know. I stepped inside, rifle up, revolver reloaded and ready. The second I crossed the threshold, the air changed, colder, heavier, wrong. The walls were covered in scratches, not from animals but symbols, carvings, older than anything I'd ever seen before. A few feet in, I found a pile of bones, not just animals, human. Some were fresh, too fresh. And then I saw the backpack. It was torn and covered in dried blood, but I could still read the faded name tag on the strap. Ethan Parker, the missing hiker. My stomach twisted. I checked the ground. No body, just the pack, just bones. Something rustled deeper in the cave. I raised my rifle. Then the whisper came. Not a sound, but a feeling crawling through my skull like fingernails on bone. You took my name. I froze. A shape moved in the shadows ahead, too large, too twisted. I'll take yours. I didn't think. I fired. The muzzle flash lit the cave, and I saw it clearly this time. Its face wasn't its own. It was mine. The bullet slammed into its head, but the thing didn't fall. It just twisted. Its neck snapped sideways, bones popping and reforming as it laughed. Then it charged. I ran out of the cave into the trees, the thing tearing after me, its footsteps changing as it ran. First hooves, then hands, then something else altogether. I barely made it back to the clearing before I tripped, hitting the ground hard. I scrambled up, aiming my rifle. But the woods were empty. The thing was gone. But I knew it wasn't over. It was still out there, and it wasn't done with me yet. I stood there, panting, sweating, my rifle still raised as the woods stretched out silent and empty before me. But I knew it was a lie. The thing was here, hiding in the trees, watching, waiting. I ejected the spent cartridge from my rifle and slammed another round in. My revolver sat heavy on my hip, and I forced myself to slow my breathing, to think like a hunter, because that's what I was now. Not a ranger, not a man lost in something he couldn't explain. A hunter, and I was going to kill this thing. I circled back toward my cabin, keeping low, rifle up. If I could lure it in, I could end this, for good. I didn't have to wait long. I had just reached the clearing when I saw it, standing on my porch. It looked human now. It had my face. It wasn't an exact copy. There was something wrong, something that made my stomach twist in ways I couldn't explain. The way the skin didn't sit right, the way the eyes glowed faintly, the way the mouth was too wide, the fingers too long. It smiled. Ranger Rick. It sounded just like me. I fired instantly. The bullet tore through its chest, knocking it back into the cabin wall. I advanced fast, pumping another round into it, watching as the thing shuddered, its body convulsing. Then it laughed. Not just one voice, many. Like a dozen mouths all speaking at once, all mocking me. The thing moved fast, throwing itself off the porch, shifting as it hit the dirt. 1 second it was me, the next it was something else, all gnarled limbs and hollow eyes. I fired again, and again, and again. Each shot hit true. Each shot should have dropped it, but it just kept coming. I had 1 round left, 1 chance. It lunged. I whipped out my revolver, aiming for the one place I hadn't hit yet. The head. The thing was midair when I pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet punched through its skull, shattering bone and flesh. The thing hit the ground hard, spasming, its limbs twitching unnaturally. Then, for the first time, it screamed. A sound that rattled my bones, that made the trees shudder, that sent something cold and awful slithering through my brain. I grabbed a flare from my belt and struck it to life, the red glow burning through the dark. I hurled it onto the thing's writhing body. The second the fire touched it, the screaming stopped. And then it burned. The flames roared high, eating through its shifting, unnatural flesh, twisting it into something black and broken. I watched until nothing remained but charred bones and curling smoke. And then, at last, the forest was silent again. I stood there, my chest heaving, the scent of burning flesh thick in the air. The fire crackled at my feet, eating through the last remnants of whatever the hell that thing was. For the first time in hours, maybe even days, the forest felt normal. The air was still heavy, but the feeling of something watching, something lurking just beyond sight, was gone. It was dead, or at least, I had to believe it was. I reloaded my rifle with shaking hands, holstered my revolver, and turned toward my cabin. My body ached, my arm still throbbed where the thing had scratched me, but I couldn't stop moving. Not yet. I needed to see the remains, to be sure. I approached the smoldering heap, my boots crunching through blackened bones. The thing had stopped shifting, stopped mocking me, but the skull remained intact, jaw twisted in a frozen, unnatural grin. I should have buried it or scattered the ashes. but something told me it wouldn't matter. The fire had done its job. I turned back toward my cabin, my eyes flicking to the ridge beyond the trees, where that damn cave sat like an open wound in the earth. I knew I couldn't leave it untouched, so I grabbed another flare, my spare fuel can, and headed back. It was a long walk, but when I reached the cave, the stench of death and rot was still there, hanging thick in the cold air. I could feel something lingering, something left behind. I doused the entrance in gasoline and lit the flare. The second I tossed it inside, the flames rushed up the walls, swallowing the carvings, the bones, the symbols scratched into the rock. A gust of wind howled through the trees, almost like a scream, and then silence. I stood there, watching the fire burn, waiting for something, anything, to push back against it. But nothing did. Whatever it was, whatever it had been, it was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my porch, rifle in my lap, eyes locked on the tree line. My radio crackled in the cabin, but I didn't turn it on. I just listened. For a long time there was nothing. No crunching leaves, no movement in the brush, no eyes in the dark. But I still didn't feel safe. Even as dawn crept through the trees, even as birds finally started to sing again, something in my gut twisted. I had killed it. I had burned its body, destroyed its lair, wiped out every trace, but something still felt wrong. I wasn't sure if it was just paranoia or if it was something else. The fire had burned away the body, the cave, and whatever dark history that thing had rooted in the park. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over, not really. The feeling of being watched hadn't left me. I tried to tell myself it was just my mind playing tricks, that I was just rattled from the fight, the hunt, the kill. But instincts don't lie, and mine were screaming. Something was still out there. I spent the next few nights locked in my cabin, rifle always within reach, revolver on my hip even when I slept. I left the radio off, ignored calls from the other rangers, barely went out for patrols. And then the footprints came back. It had rained the night before. A heavy storm, the kind that should have washed away any trace of the past few days. But when I stepped onto my porch that morning, I saw them. Coyote tracks. They led from the tree line, circled the cabin, and then, just like before, shifted. By the time they reached my porch, the paw prints had turned to bare feet. And the worst part, they stopped right in front of my door. I felt the blood drain from my face as I stepped back inside, shutting the door behind me, locking it out of habit. But it was already too late. I checked the windows next. The fog had rolled in thick that morning, curling around the trees like long fingers, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. But I still saw it, a figure, standing at the edge of the woods. It wasn't moving, just watching. I could barely make out the shape through the mist, but my stomach tightened when I saw its posture. Its stance was too familiar. It was me, or at least something wearing me. I stepped away from the window, heart hammering. The air in my cabin felt wrong now, thick and heavy, like something was pressing against my chest, against my skull. And then, the radio crackled. I had left it off. I knew I had left it off. But now, it buzzed with faint static, like something was trying to push through. Then a voice, my voice. Ranger Rick. The sound was warped, like something was pulling it apart, twisting it just enough to make it unreal. The figure at the edge of the woods tilted its head, and then slowly it grinned. A grin that was too wide, too knowing. A grin that told me this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The thing stood there, just beyond the tree line, watching me. My own face stretched into something too wide, too wrong, grinning like it knew something I didn't. The radio crackled again. Ranger Rick. My stomach twisted. I raised my rifle, but my hands were shaking now, my pulse hammering in my ears. I had burned its body, destroyed its cave, put a bullet through its skull, and yet, it was still here. I took a step back from the window, my mind racing. What did I miss? What did I do wrong? And then I caught my own reflection in the glass, and my blood ran cold. For just a fraction of a second, my eyes flashed yellow. Not brown, not the same tired, bloodshot eyes I had stared into every morning for the past 15 years. Yellow, like a predator's. I staggered back, my breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. No. My voice came out weak, like I was trying to convince myself. But deep down I knew I hadn't killed it. I had let it in, that scratch, the one on my arm. It had been a mark, not just an attack. A way to infect me, change me, warp me into something else. I grabbed the lamp off my desk, yanking my sleeve up. The wound had been healing too fast. The scratch that should have left a scar was barely more than faint pink lines. I felt something cold and wrong slither through me, curling in the pit of my stomach. I turned back to the window, expecting the thing, my twin, to still be standing there. But the woods were empty. I wasn't being hunted anymore, because I was becoming it. My mind reeled, flashing back to every horror story I had ever heard about skinwalkers. Every tale whispered around campfires about the curse, the infection, the slow unraveling of humanity. Was that what had happened to Ethan Parker? The hiker who had vanished without a trace? Had he fought this thing, just like me? Had he turned into something else? I looked down at my hands, my fingers trembling. They still looked normal, still felt like mine. But for how long? The thought hit me like a bullet. I was a ranger, a protector of this land. And now, I was something worse. I took a deep breath, my grip tightening on my revolver. I had a choice to make, either fight it or let it take me. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. And somewhere, just beyond the darkness, something laughed. The same laugh that had haunted me for days. Except this time, it sounded just like me. I never thought much about the dark web. It always seemed like the kind of thing you'd hear about in crime shows or urban legends. Mostly myth, a little truth, but always a bad idea to get involved with. But being the curious person I am, I couldn't resist the allure of mystery boxes. The idea of receiving something unexpected and thrilling intrigued me, despite the potential for disappointment or even danger. It was like scratching a lottery ticket, only instead of a jackpot, you might find something bizarre or unsettling. It was a rainy afternoon when the package arrived. A small, nondescript brown box, battered and taped carelessly, sat on my porch as if it had been tossed there. No return address, no clues as to where it had come from, just my own address scrawled in messy handwriting across the top. My heart skipped a beat as I picked it up, feeling the weight of its contents shift slightly inside. I brought it inside, my fingers trembling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. I set the box down on the kitchen table, the raindrops from my jacket creating tiny puddles on the wooden surface. Taking a deep breath, I reached for a pair of scissors and carefully sliced through the layers of tape sealing the box shut. As I opened it, I was met with the scent of something old and musty, like an attic filled with forgotten memories. Inside the box was a small velvet pouch, the kind you'd expect to find jewelry in. A pang of confusion hit me. This was no ordinary mystery box filled with odd trinkets or weird gadgets. This was personal, intimate even. I reached in and pulled out the pouch, feeling the weight of something metallic inside. My heart raced as I opened it and emptied its contents onto the table. There, in the dim light of my kitchen, lay my father's necklace and black ring. The necklace was unmistakable, gold with a heart-shaped locket, the same one he'd worn every day until his sudden and tragic death 10 years ago. I gently opened the locket, revealing the tiny photo of my mother and me inside, just as I remembered it. The ring, too, was familiar, a simple black band with his initials engraved on the inside, something he never took off. My mind reeled with questions. How did these items end up in a mystery box from the dark web? My father had passed away when I was only 12, and we'd buried him with both the necklace and the ring. The thought that someone might have desecrated his grave to obtain them was horrifying. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than simple theft. I sat there staring at the items, lost in a sea of memories and emotions. My father had been a good man, a quiet and reserved individual who never spoke much about his past or his work. My mother had always told me he worked in finance, but there were times when he'd disappear for days, returning home with a haunted look in his eyes and an unspoken heaviness in his heart. Determined to uncover the truth, I began researching the dark web, trying to find any trace of where the box might have come from. It was a tangled mess of anonymous forums and encrypted sites, a digital labyrinth where secrets were bought and sold like commodities. As I delved deeper, I stumbled upon a forum dedicated to those who had received similar boxes, each claiming to have received personal items that had mysteriously disappeared or been lost. One post in particular caught my eye. It was from someone who claimed to have found documents linking their family to a shadowy organization that operated on the dark web. The more I read, the more I felt a chilling connection to my own situation. Could it be possible that my father had been involved in something beyond what we knew? Something that even my mother was unaware of? I knew I had to talk to her. She'd always been evasive when I asked about my father's work, dismissing my questions with vague answers or changing the subject altogether. But now, with the necklace and ring sitting in front of me, I needed answers. As I picked up my phone to call her, a notification popped up. An email from an unknown sender, the subject line reading, "You've only just begun to uncover the truth." A shiver ran down my spine as I opened the email. It was a single line of text. "Your father's secrets are more dangerous than you can imagine. Be careful where you dig." With trembling hands, I closed the email, my mind racing with fear and curiosity. What had my father been involved in, and how deep did his secrets run? I had no choice but to find out, even if it meant uncovering things I might wish I hadn't. The rain continued to pour outside, the rhythmic tapping on the roof echoing the turmoil within me. I stared at the necklace and ring once more, knowing that this was only the beginning of a journey that would take me deep into the shadows of my father's past and into a world I could barely comprehend. After receiving that chilling email, I knew I needed to talk to my mother. Her evasive answers about my father's past had never satisfied my curiosity. But now, with tangible evidence in front of me, I couldn't ignore the need for answers. I dialed her number, my heart pounding with each ring. "Hello?" My mother's familiar voice answered, a hint of warmth in her tone that calmed my nerves. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's about Dad." There was a pause on the other end, a hesitation that told me she knew this conversation was coming sooner or later. "What about him, honey?" I took a deep breath and explained everything: the mystery box, the necklace, the ring, and the ominous email. Silence followed my story, and I could almost feel the weight of her thoughts through the phone. "I knew this day would come," she finally said, her voice tinged with a mix of sadness and resignation. "There's something I need to tell you about your father." I listened intently as she spoke, her words unraveling a story I never imagined. My father hadn't just worked in finance. He had been involved with a group that operated in the shadows of the digital world. They called themselves the Gatekeepers, a network of individuals dedicated to maintaining the balance of power in the world of the dark web. Their mission was to monitor and intervene when certain activities threatened to disrupt that balance, activities that were too dangerous for law enforcement to handle alone. "He never wanted to put us in danger," my mother explained, her voice trembling slightly. "That's why he kept it a secret. He thought he could protect us by keeping us in the dark." I was stunned. My father, the quiet man who loved crossword puzzles and old jazz records, had been living a double life. It was a lot to take in, but I understood why he had kept it hidden. The dark web was a place filled with potential dangers, and being involved with it, even from a distance, was risky. "Do you think someone sent that box to warn me?" I asked, thinking of the email and its cryptic message. "It's possible," she replied. "After your father passed away, I tried to cut all ties with that world, but it seems they haven't forgotten us." The thought of being watched or targeted because of my father's past was unsettling, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover. I thanked my mother for her honesty and promised to be careful as I dug deeper into this mystery. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in research, trying to piece together my father's life as a gatekeeper. I spent hours on forums, reading through threads about the group and their operations. Some posts mentioned missions that sounded like scenes from a spy thriller. Others hinted at betrayals and conspiracies that seemed too far-fetched to be true. But every piece of information brought me closer to understanding who my father was and what he had been involved in. One evening, as I scrolled through another forum, a private message popped up on my screen. It was from a user with the handle Watcher42, and the message was simple. I know who you are. Meet me tomorrow at noon at Greenfield Park. Come alone. My heart raced as I read the message. Was this person friend or foe? Could they provide the answers I sought, or was it a trap? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but my curiosity outweighed my fear. I had to go. The next day, I arrived at Greenfield Park, my eyes scanning the area for anyone who seemed out of place. The park was mostly empty, save for a few joggers and dog walkers. I waited near the entrance, feeling exposed and vulnerable in the open space. A few minutes later, a man approached. He wore a dark coat and sunglasses, his demeanor casual yet alert. As he drew closer, he nodded in my direction, and I knew he was the one who had sent the message. You must be curious about your father, he said, his voice low and steady. I am, I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. What can you tell me? He was one of the best, the man said, a hint of admiration in his tone. But he knew too much. There are people who would do anything to keep their secrets hidden, and your father was a threat to them. I listened intently, trying to absorb every word. The man explained that the gatekeepers had been dismantled after my father's death, but some of its former members still operated in the shadows, trying to continue the work he had started. Your father's legacy lives on, he said, handing me a small envelope. Inside, you'll find information about his last mission. It's dangerous knowledge, but I believe you have the right to know. I took the envelope, feeling its weight in my hand. It was another piece of the puzzle, another step towards understanding the truth. Thank you, I said, grateful for his help. But why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know the truth, he replied, and because there are others who would rather see you kept in the dark. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts in the envelope. I knew that whatever was inside would change everything I thought I knew about my father and the world he was part of. As I headed home, my mind buzzed with questions and possibilities. The dark web had always been a place of mystery and intrigue, but now it was personal. I had to be careful, but I couldn't turn back. Not now. Not when I was so close to uncovering the truth about my father's hidden life and the secrets he had left behind. The envelope felt heavy in my pocket as I walked back home, each step accompanied by a swirl of anticipation and dread. I had no idea what secrets it held, but I was determined to find out. Once inside, I locked the door behind me and sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where I had first opened the mysterious box. With a deep breath, I tore open the envelope. Inside were several documents, yellowed with age, along with a small USB drive. The papers were filled with codes, dates, and cryptic notes, all written in my father's meticulous handwriting. I recognized his penmanship immediately, neat, precise, with a slight slant that was uniquely his. One document stood out, a letter addressed to me, written by my father. My heart raced as I unfolded it, the words blurring momentarily as tears welled in my eyes. Dear Daniel, if you're reading this, it means you've found your way to a world I tried to shield you from. I'm sorry for the secrets, the lies by omission. Everything I did was to protect you and your mother. But now, you have a right to know the truth. I was part of a group called the Gatekeepers, tasked with monitoring and intervening in dangerous activities on the dark web. We sought to keep the balance, to prevent those with malicious intent from causing harm. It was a shadowy world, one that demanded secrecy and sacrifice. There were things I couldn't tell you or your mother, operations that were too risky, enemies that were too powerful. But know this, everything I did for you both. I've left clues in these documents, pieces of the puzzle that will help you understand. Be careful whom you trust and always stay vigilant. With all my love, Dad. His words hit me like a tidal wave, bringing both clarity and confusion. My father had been living a life of secrecy, constantly walking the line between protection and danger. It was hard to reconcile the loving father I remembered with the man who had been a part of something so clandestine. I wiped my eyes and turned my attention to the other documents, trying to piece together the information he had left behind. There were lists of names, locations, and encrypted messages that made little sense to me. My mind raced as I tried to connect the dots, the weight of responsibility heavy on my shoulders. Next, I plugged the USB drive into my laptop, my fingers trembling slightly. The screen flickered to life, revealing a series of files, each labeled with a date. They appeared to be records of my father's last mission, the one that had likely led to his death. I clicked on the first file, revealing a detailed report of a dark web auction involving sensitive information and illegal goods. As I scrolled through the documents, I noticed a pattern. My father had been investigating a network of individuals who were using the dark web to traffic not just in illegal items, but in secrets that had the potential to topple governments and destroy lives. His mission had been to stop them, to dismantle their operations before they could cause irreparable harm. The more I read, the clearer it became that this was bigger than anything I had imagined. My father had been onto something significant, something that others would kill to keep hidden. It explained the mysterious email and the man in the park. They were warnings and signs that I was treading on dangerous ground. Despite the danger, I felt a growing determination to continue my father's work. It was as if he had passed the baton to me, entrusting me with the task of carrying on his legacy. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't turn back now. Over the next few days, I spent every spare moment poring over the documents, deciphering codes, and researching names. I set up alerts on forums and joined discussions under a pseudonym, hoping to gather more information without attracting unwanted attention. As I delved deeper, I began to notice a recurring name, the Obsidian Order. It was mentioned in several of my father's notes, often accompanied by warnings about their reach and influence. They seemed to be at the center of the web he was unraveling, a powerful organization that operated in the shadows, pulling strings and manipulating events to suit their agenda. I was on the brink of uncovering something monumental, but I knew I couldn't do it alone. I needed allies, people I could trust to help me navigate this murky world. I reached out to a few online contacts who seemed to share my goals, cautiously building a network of individuals who were just as determined to expose the truth. One evening, as I sat at my desk, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. It was from one of the contacts I'd been corresponding with, someone who went by the username Phoenix. The subject line read, "I have information about the Obsidian Order." My heart pounded as I opened the email. Inside was a message offering to meet and discuss what they knew, along with a warning. Be careful. They're watching you. It was a chilling reminder of the risks involved, but I was more determined than ever to see this through. The truth about my father's life and the dark world he had been a part of was within reach. I couldn't let fear hold me back now. As I prepared for the meeting with Phoenix, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into a story that was far from over. A tale of secrets, shadows, and hidden truths that would test everything I thought I knew. The message from Phoenix hung in my mind like a beacon. I had been so absorbed in unraveling my father's secrets that I hadn't fully grasped the magnitude of what I was involved in. The Obsidian Order was real, and if Phoenix was right, they were aware of my efforts to expose them. It was both terrifying and exhilarating, the thought that I was part of something so significant, yet potentially so dangerous. The meeting with Phoenix was set for a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. It was the kind of place where people didn't ask questions and faces faded into the background. I arrived early, choosing a table in the corner where I could see the entrance and exit easily. My nerves were on edge, but I was determined to see this through. A few minutes later, a figure entered the cafe, scanning the room before locking eyes with me. Phoenix was younger than I had expected, with a confident stride and an air of quiet intensity. They approached my table, offering a small nod of acknowledgement before taking a seat. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, trying to project an air of calm I didn't entirely feel. Phoenix smiled, a hint of mischief in their eyes. "I'm just as curious as you are. Your father's work left a lot of unanswered questions." We spoke in hushed tones, exchanging information and piecing together the puzzle that was the Obsidian Order. Phoenix explained that the group was deeply entrenched in the dark web, controlling information and manipulating events for their own gain. They were powerful and secretive, with eyes everywhere. "My father was onto something big," I said, showing Phoenix the documents and notes I had deciphered. "He believed they were orchestrating events to destabilize governments." Phoenix nodded, their expression serious. "Your father was a brave man. He came closer than anyone to uncovering their plans, but he wasn't the only one. There are others like him, working in the shadows to stop them." The idea that there were others fighting the same battle was reassuring. It meant I wasn't alone in this, that I had allies even in the darkest corners of the digital world. Phoenix was one of them, and I knew I could trust them. As we talked, Phoenix revealed that they had been monitoring the Obsidian Order's activities for years, gathering intelligence and trying to disrupt their operations. They believed that my father had left behind a key piece of information, something that could bring the group down once and for all. "There's a file," Phoenix explained, their voice low. "Your father managed to encrypt it before he died. It contains everything we need to expose the Obsidian Order's plans." My heart raced at the prospect. "Do you know where it is?" Phoenix nodded, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. "It's hidden on a server, one that's only accessible through a specific code. Your father's documents might hold the key." The weight of their words settled over me like a cloak. I had the potential to finish what my father had started, to uncover the truth and shine a light on the darkness that had claimed his life. But I knew it wouldn't be easy. The Obsidian Order was formidable, and they wouldn't hesitate to protect their secrets. As Phoenix and I discussed our next steps, a sense of urgency filled the air. We had to act quickly before the Obsidian Order realized how close we were to exposing them. I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. We parted ways with a plan in place. I would continue deciphering my father's documents, searching for the code that would unlock the file. Phoenix would keep me updated on any developments, ensuring that we stayed one step ahead of our adversaries. Over the following weeks, I worked tirelessly, poring over my father's notes and piecing together the clues he had left behind. Each discovery brought me closer to understanding the man he had been and the legacy he had left for me to uncover. One night, as I was sifting through a particularly dense document, a realization struck me. My father had always been fond of puzzles, using them as a way to unwind and exercise his mind. It made sense that he would hide the code within one, a final challenge for me to solve. I spent hours decoding his notes, searching for patterns and connections that might reveal the key. It was like following a breadcrumb trail through a labyrinth of memories and secrets, each step bringing me closer to the truth. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I found it, a sequence of numbers and letters woven into the fabric of his writings. It was a simple code, hidden in plain sight, yet elegant in its complexity. I knew without a doubt that this was the key to unlocking the file Phoenix had spoken of. Excitement and apprehension warred within me as I prepared to access the server. This was it, the culmination of my father's work and my own journey through the shadows. I entered the code, my fingers trembling slightly as I did so. The screen flickered, and a file appeared before me, its contents waiting to be revealed. I took a deep breath, knowing that once I opened it, there would be no turning back. The truth and everything it entailed was finally within my grasp. The moment I opened the file, I felt the weight of my father's legacy pressing down on me. The screen displayed a series of documents and videos, each more shocking than the last. They detailed the Obsidian Order's plans, blueprints for chaos and manipulation that spanned continents and affected millions of lives. As I scrolled through the information, the enormity of what I held in my hands became clear. The Order was not just a shadowy group operating on the fringes of the dark web. They were deeply embedded in global networks, influencing everything from politics to commerce. The file contained names of influential figures, secret bank accounts, and plans for destabilizing governments, all meticulously documented by my father and his allies. The videos were perhaps the most damning evidence of all. They showed meetings between Order members, discussions of their plans, and even confessions from those who had tried to leave the group. It was irrefutable proof of their existence and their intentions, a treasure trove of information that could expose them to the world. I contacted Phoenix immediately, sharing the contents of the file and discussing our next move. We knew that simply exposing the information wasn't enough. We needed to ensure it reached the right people, those who could use it to dismantle the Order and hold its members accountable. Working with Phoenix and other trusted allies, we began to compile the evidence into a comprehensive dossier. We encrypted it for security, ensuring that only those we trusted could access it. Our goal was to get the information to journalists, investigators, and law enforcement officials who had the power to act. As we worked, I felt a deep connection to my father, as if he were guiding me through this final challenge. I understood now why he had kept his secrets, why he had shielded us from this world of shadows and deceit. But I also knew that he would be proud of me for continuing his fight, for bringing his work to light and honoring his memory. The day we were ready to release the dossier, I felt a mix of emotions: nervousness, excitement, and a sense of closure. Phoenix and I coordinated our efforts, sending the information to trusted contacts and ensuring its safe passage into the hands of those who could use it to bring about change. The response was swift and overwhelming. Journalists began publishing stories, investigators launched inquiries, and law enforcement agencies around the world took action. The Obsidian Order's web of secrecy unraveled. Their influence diminished as the truth came to light. In the days that followed, I watched as the world reacted to the revelations. It was a testament to my father's courage and determination, a reminder that even in the darkest places, there are those who fight for what is right. With the Obsidian Order exposed, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known since the mystery box had first arrived at my doorstep. My father's secrets were no longer a burden, but a beacon of hope, a reminder that the truth could prevail even against the most formidable foes. My relationship with my mother deepened as well. She was relieved to finally know the full story, to understand the man my father had been and the sacrifices he had made for us. We spent hours talking about him, sharing memories and finding solace in the knowledge that his legacy had made a difference. The mystery box, once a source of confusion and fear, now sat on a shelf in my home as a reminder of the journey I had undertaken. It was a symbol of my father's love and the strength he had passed on to me, a testament to the power of truth and the courage it takes to pursue it. As I moved forward, I knew that my father's work would continue to inspire me. The dark web, with all its secrets and shadows, was no longer an enigma to be feared, but a challenge to be met with integrity and resolve. In the end, I realized that my father's greatest gift to me was not the necklace or the ring, but the courage to seek the truth, no matter where it led. It was a legacy I was proud to carry on, a journey I would never forget. And as I looked to the future, I knew that his spirit would always guide me, lighting the way through even the darkest of times. I've always been fascinated by strange and mysterious artifacts. It's a bit of an obsession, really. My collection started innocently enough with old coins and antique jewelry, but as time went on, I found myself diving deeper into the obscure corners of the internet to find the truly bizarre. That's how I ended up on a forum dedicated to unusual and haunted items. One evening, while browsing through the listings, a post caught my eye. Haunted music box, only for the brave and curious. It seemed like the perfect addition to my collection. The post included a picture of the music box, which was beautifully carved with intricate patterns, and a short description of its history. According to the seller, the box had been passed down through generations of a family rumored to have practiced some kind of esoteric art. The music it played was said to be a lullaby that brought peace, or madness, to those who listened. Despite the chilling warning, curiosity got the better of me. I clicked the Buy Now button, feeling a thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension. After a few days of anticipation, the package finally arrived at my doorstep. It was smaller than I expected, wrapped in plain brown paper with no return address. I carefully unwrapped it to reveal the music box, along with a few unexpected extras. A dusty vinyl record labeled Lullabies of the Unknown, and a pair of vintage headphones that looked like they'd seen better days. I couldn't wait to test it all out, but something in the back of my mind made me pause. There was an air of mystery about these items, and the thought of the warning about the curse lingered. Shaking off the unease, I decided to start with the music box. I wound it up gently, and the first notes of the tune began to play. It was a hauntingly beautiful melody, soft and slow, yet carrying an undertone of melancholy that was hard to shake off. As the song continued, I felt a strange sensation wash over me, as if the room around me was becoming dimmer, and the walls seemed to close in ever so slightly. To distract myself, I turned my attention to the vinyl record. Finding an old turntable in the attic, I dusted it off and placed the record on it. As the needle touched the vinyl, the room filled with a voice so serene yet eerie that it sent shivers down my spine. The lullabies were in a language I didn't recognize, but the emotion in the voice was clear. It was a lament, a song of loss and longing. Feeling a bit unnerved, I decided to try the headphones last. I put them on and pressed play on my phone, half expecting them to not work at all. To my surprise, they emitted a faint whispering sound. At first, I thought it was just static, but as I listened closer, the whispers became more distinct. They were saying my name. I pulled off the headphones, heart pounding. Maybe it was just a trick of my mind, or maybe I was too caught up in the moment. I convinced myself that I'd imagined it and took a deep breath. I was in my own house, surrounded by familiar things, yet everything felt different, charged with an eerie energy. Determined to enjoy my new acquisitions, I placed the music box on the shelf in my living room and left the record on the turntable. As night fell, I decided to call it a day, hoping that sleep would dispel the odd atmosphere that had settled over me. That night I dreamed of a dark, endless hallway with doors on either side. Behind each door I heard the haunting lullaby, echoing through the silence. One door stood slightly ajar, and as I approached it, the music grew louder. I woke up with a start, drenched in sweat, the melody still playing faintly in my ears. The next morning, I resolved to set aside my unease and continue with my routine. But as I went about my day, small things began to happen. The music box would sometimes start playing on its own, the record would spin without anyone touching it, and the headphones occasionally whispered even when they weren't connected to anything. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Despite these unsettling occurrences, my curiosity overrode my fear. I began to research the origins of the music box and its supposed curse. What I found was a tangled web of stories, each more bizarre than the last. People claimed that the music could bring visions of the past, open portals to other dimensions, or even communicate with spirits. Most disturbing of all, there were rumors of a connection between the lullabies and tragic events in the lives of those who listened too closely. I started to wonder if I'd gotten in over my head, but something inside me refused to back down. I needed to know more, to understand the truth behind these artifacts. I decided to keep investigating, to uncover the secrets hidden within the haunting melody and whispered words. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. As I delved deeper, I would uncover secrets that would change everything I thought I knew about the world and myself. But for now, I was just a curious collector, drawn into a mystery that was about to become far more personal than I ever imagined. As the days went on, the mysterious happenings around the music box only intensified. I began to feel like I was living in a haunted house. Objects would move slightly when I wasn't looking, and the air in my home felt thicker, as if charged with a presence I couldn't see. I reached out to the forum where I had found the music box, hoping to connect with others who might have purchased similar items. To my surprise, I received several responses almost immediately. Most were just as curious as I was, but one message stood out. It was from someone named Avery, who claimed to have once owned the same music box. Avery warned me to be cautious. They explained that the box was believed to contain a spirit that had attached itself to the music. According to them, the spirit was not malevolent, but desperately seeking something, possibly resolution or peace. Avery suggested I listen carefully to the whispers in the headphones, as they might hold clues to understanding what the spirit wanted. Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, I decided to take their advice. I sat down in my living room, put on the headphones, and focused on the whispers. At first, it was hard to make out any words, but as I concentrated, the whispers slowly became clearer. Phrases like "find me," "help," and "lost" echoed softly in my ears, sending chills down my spine. I decided to focus on the phrase, "find me." What or who could be lost? I spent hours trying to decipher the message, playing the music box repeatedly, hoping to find some clue hidden in the melody. It was during one of these sessions that I noticed something peculiar. As the music played, the patterns on the box seemed to shift subtly, forming shapes that resembled letters. I grabbed a notebook and began to jot down the letters as they appeared. E-L-I-Z-A. It was a name. Could this be the spirit trapped within the music box? I felt a rush of excitement mixed with fear, as if I was on the verge of uncovering a secret that had been buried for years. Driven by a need to understand, I searched online for any records of someone named Eliza connected to a music box. After sifting through countless irrelevant articles, I finally stumbled upon an old news clipping from the 1920s about a young girl named Eliza, who had disappeared from a nearby town under mysterious circumstances. According to the article, she was last seen playing with a peculiar music box. The story went on to describe how her family had been devastated by her disappearance and how the case had eventually gone cold. Could this be the same Eliza? The coincidence seemed too strong to ignore. I decided to visit the town mentioned in the article. It wasn't too far from where I lived, and I felt an unexplainable urge to see if I could find out more about Eliza's story. Arriving there, I headed straight to the local library, hoping to find more records, or perhaps someone who might know about the legend of the music box. The librarian, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson, was surprisingly familiar with the tale. She recounted how Eliza's disappearance had been the talk of the town for years, and how people believed her spirit had been trapped in the music box she cherished so much. Some locals even claimed to have seen her ghost wandering the old family estate, which had long since fallen into ruin. Armed with this new information, I felt more determined than ever to solve the mystery and perhaps help Eliza find peace. I decided to visit the old estate, despite the warnings from Mrs. Thompson about its decrepit condition. The estate was located on the outskirts of town, shrouded in overgrown trees and tangled vines. As I approached, a sense of unease settled over me, yet I pressed on, feeling a strange connection to Eliza and her plight. The house itself was a shadow of its former glory, with shattered windows and a sagging roof. Yet as I stepped inside, I could almost feel the echoes of its past. A place that had once been filled with life and laughter, now silent and forgotten. As I explored the dusty rooms, I wondered if Eliza had walked these halls, perhaps playing with her music box, unaware of the fate that awaited her. I hoped that by being here, I might find some clue to help her find peace. While in what appeared to be an old music room, I placed the music box on a grand yet weathered piano. The box began to play its haunting melody again, this time accompanied by a faint shimmer of light that seemed to dance around the room. In that moment, I felt a gentle presence, like a soft breeze, envelop me. It was as if Eliza was there, reaching out, hoping to finally be found. I whispered her name softly, feeling the room grow warmer, the melody of the music box now a soothing lullaby. I knew then that this was just the beginning of my journey. I was determined to uncover the truth behind Eliza's disappearance and to help her spirit find the peace it so desperately sought. But I also knew I had to be careful, for the music box held secrets yet to be revealed, and I was only beginning to understand the depths of its mystery. Returning from the old estate, my mind was buzzing with possibilities. I couldn't shake the feeling that Eliza was trying to communicate, reaching out from wherever she was trapped. I spent the next few days immersed in research, diving deep into archives and local histories to piece together Eliza's story. I discovered that Eliza's family had been well regarded in their town, known for their lavish parties and musical talent. Her mother was a renowned pianist, and her father collected rare musical instruments, which explained Eliza's fascination with the music box. Yet, after her disappearance, the family's fortunes took a drastic downturn, leading to the eventual abandonment of their estate. Despite the mystery surrounding her disappearance, there was little concrete evidence. Most reports from the time speculated she had simply wandered off, but whispers of something more sinister lingered in the background, a family curse or a hidden scandal. Determined to find answers, I reached out to a few historians in the area, hoping someone might have more insight. That's when I met Mr. Harrington, an eccentric yet knowledgeable historian who had spent years collecting stories about local legends. Mr. Harrington invited me to his home, which was crammed with books and artifacts from various eras. He had heard of Eliza's tale and was intrigued by my interest. Over tea, he shared his theories, suggesting that Eliza might have stumbled upon something her family wished to keep hidden. There's always been talk of a secret hidden within the music box, he explained, gesturing to an old photograph of Eliza holding the box. Some believe it holds the key to a family secret, perhaps something her parents wanted to protect or conceal. His words sent a chill through me. Could the music box contain more than just a haunting melody? I knew I had to find out, and I began examining the box more closely, studying its carvings and mechanisms for any hidden compartments or symbols. One evening, while carefully inspecting the box, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Beneath the ornate carvings was a small, barely visible latch. With a bit of effort, I managed to open it, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a delicate folded piece of paper, a letter written in elegant handwriting. The letter, though faded, was surprisingly legible. It was addressed to Eliza, signed by someone named A.M., and spoke of a secret place where Eliza was to go if she ever needed to feel safe. The letter mentioned a grove near the estate, a spot known only to her family. Excited by this new lead, I returned to the estate, feeling a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The sun was setting as I reached the grove, casting long shadows through the trees. I wandered among the ancient oaks, searching for anything that seemed out of place. Eventually, I came upon a small clearing surrounded by a circle of trees. At the center was an old stone bench, partially covered in moss. It seemed like a place meant for reflection, perhaps where Eliza had found solace. As I sat down, I placed the music box beside me and wound it up. The lullaby filled the air, more poignant than ever. As I listened, I noticed something odd, a resonance, a subtle harmony in the music that seemed to vibrate through the grove. The melody seemed to call out, echoing among the trees. Suddenly, a breeze rustled the leaves and the whispers returned, this time more distinct. I could hear a gentle voice, almost like a child's, softly singing along with the tune. It was as if Eliza's spirit was here, trying to reach out, trapped within the music's haunting beauty. Overwhelmed by the experience, I whispered into the air, "Eliza, are you here? What do you want me to know?" For a moment, the world seemed to pause, the only sound the lilting melody of the music box. Then, as if in response, a gentle warmth enveloped me, like an unseen hand resting on my shoulder. I felt a sense of peace, mixed with a tinge of sadness. The encounter left me convinced that Eliza was indeed connected to this place, perhaps even tied to the music itself. I left the grove with a newfound determination to unravel the mystery, to help Eliza find the resolution she sought. I knew I had to explore the connection between the music box and the hidden secrets of her family. Back at home, I spent hours researching and listening to the music, hoping to uncover more clues. As I pieced together Eliza's story, I began to feel a profound empathy for her, a girl lost in time, yearning to be heard. It was clear that the music box was the key to solving the mystery, and I was determined to see it through. Little did I know that the journey ahead would reveal even deeper secrets and test my understanding of the world in ways I never imagined. The whispers held more than just memories. They carried the weight of a promise unfulfilled, and it was up to me to help bring it to light. The more I learned about Eliza, the more I felt a profound connection to her story. Her spirit seemed to linger not only in the grove, but in the very notes of the music box, and I was determined to understand why. I needed to find out what she wanted, and what secrets her family might have been hiding. With the letter from AM as my guide, I continued to delve into the history of Eliza's family. I spent long nights at the library, sifting through records and old newspapers. I learned that Eliza's father had been involved in some mysterious dealings, and there were rumors of an old family feud that had never been resolved. One particularly interesting discovery was a journal entry from a family friend mentioning an ancient melody that held special significance to Eliza's family. The friend described how the melody had been passed down through generations, believed to be a key to unlocking a hidden legacy. This resonated deeply with the music box's haunting tune. Curious about this melody, I decided to analyze the music further. I reached out to a friend, Alex, who was a talented musician and had experience with decoding musical compositions. Alex was intrigued by the challenge and agreed to help me uncover any hidden meanings within the melody. We spent several evenings dissecting the tune, playing it over and over. Alex suggested recording it and analyzing the frequency patterns to see if there were any hidden messages encoded within the music. As we did this, we noticed something remarkable, a series of subtle changes in the notes that formed a distinct pattern, almost like a code. The pattern was too deliberate to be a coincidence. It seemed to be a sequence of musical notes that corresponded to specific letters. Excited by this discovery, we worked late into the night, translating the notes into words. The message slowly came to life. "Seek the star that guides the lost." This cryptic phrase filled me with a sense of urgency. What could it mean? How was it connected to Eliza and her family's secrets? I remembered seeing an old painting of a night sky in one of the dusty rooms of the estate, adorned with a prominent star at its center. Could this be the clue I was looking for? I decided to return to the estate, hoping to find more answers. Alex insisted on joining me, eager to see the place where the story had begun. We arrived just before dusk, the setting sun casting an eerie glow over the abandoned house. Inside, We made our way to the room with the painting. It was exactly as I remembered, a beautiful depiction of the night sky with a bright star positioned above the estate. As we studied it, Alex pointed out something unusual, a small, almost invisible marking on the canvas, shaped like an arrow pointing upwards. Following the arrow, we noticed that the ceiling bore the same pattern as the painting, with a small panel slightly ajar. With a boost from Alex, I reached up and pushed the panel open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small weathered box, much like the music box, and an old diary. The diary belonged to Eliza's mother, filled with entries that painted a vivid picture of her life. She wrote about her love for music, her fears, and her hopes for Eliza's future. But as the entries progressed, they took a darker turn. She described a growing rift within the family, fueled by the mysterious melody and its supposed power. The last entry was the most chilling. It spoke of a star that held the key to breaking a curse, a burden that had haunted their family for generations. Her mother's words conveyed both desperation and hope, as if she believed that Eliza could be the one to end the cycle. The weight of this revelation was overwhelming. It seemed that the music box was not just an artifact, but a conduit for a family legacy that had both protected and imprisoned them. I realized that Eliza's disappearance was not merely a tragic accident, but perhaps a deliberate attempt to escape the shadow of this curse. With renewed determination, Alex and I set out to find the star mentioned in the diary. We returned to the grove, where I had first felt Eliza's presence. As night fell, we searched for anything that might resemble a guiding star. In the moonlight, we noticed something remarkable: a series of stones arranged in a star pattern, partially hidden by overgrown grass. At the center was a small, worn pedestal. As we cleared the debris, we found an inscription carved into the stone: "To those who seek, find solace and truth." With the music box in hand, I wound it up and placed it on the pedestal. As the melody filled the air, the stones seemed to resonate with the music, casting a gentle glow. It was as if the grove itself was coming to life, responding to the call of the music. In that moment, I understood the true purpose of the music box. It was not a curse, but a key, a means of unlocking the hidden truth and granting peace to those who sought it. The melody carried the hopes and dreams of generations, waiting for someone to finally listen and understand. As the glow enveloped us, I felt a profound sense of peace, as if Eliza's spirit was finally at rest. The whispers in the headphones faded into a gentle lullaby, and the air around us felt lighter, free from the burdens of the past. Alex and I left the grove, knowing that we had fulfilled a promise made long ago. The music box, once a symbol of mystery and fear, had become a beacon of hope and understanding. I knew that Eliza's story had reached its conclusion, and I felt honored to have been a part of it. Yet, as we walked away, I couldn't help but wonder what other stories lay hidden in the world, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to listen. The music box had taught me that sometimes the greatest mysteries are not meant to be feared but embraced, for they hold the power to illuminate the path to truth and redemption. After our encounter in the grove, I felt a profound sense of closure. The music box had revealed its secrets, and Eliza's spirit seemed to be at peace. The once haunting melody now felt like a gentle reminder of the journey we had undertaken. Back at home, I placed the music box on a shelf where it could be seen, a testament to the power of curiosity and compassion. I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened: the whispers, the hidden messages, and the incredible bond I felt with a girl from the past. Word of our discovery soon spread among the local historians and enthusiasts. Mr. Harrington, always eager to learn more, invited Alex and me to speak about our experiences at a community gathering. It was an opportunity to share Eliza's story, not as a ghost tale, but as a reminder of the importance of history and memory. At the event, We recounted our journey, from the moment the music box arrived to our discovery in the grove. We spoke about the power of music and how it can connect us to those who came before. The audience listened intently, captivated by the story of a family's legacy and the young girl who found peace through music. After our talk, an elderly woman approached us. She introduced herself as Margaret, a distant relative of Eliza's family. She was deeply moved by our story and thanked us for bringing closure to a mystery that had haunted her family for generations. Margaret explained that she had grown up hearing stories about Eliza and the music box, but never imagined they could be true. She shared that her family had long believed in the power of music to heal and unite, a belief that had been passed down through the years. Grateful for her words, I handed Margaret the letter I had found inside the music box. It was a small gesture, but I felt it belonged with someone who could appreciate its significance. Margaret smiled, tears in her eyes, and promised to keep Eliza's memory alive. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to normal. Yet the experience had left an indelible mark on me. The music box had taught me to look beyond the surface, to listen not just with my ears but with my heart. I felt more attuned to the world around me, more aware of the stories that lay hidden in everyday objects and places. Alex and I continued to explore our shared interest in music and history, collaborating on projects that celebrated the connection between past and present. The music box had sparked a passion in both of us, a desire to uncover the stories that often go untold, to give voice to the forgotten echoes of history. One evening, while working on a new project, I decided to play the music box one last time. As the familiar melody filled the room, I felt a sense of warmth and contentment. The music was no longer haunting but soothing, a reminder of the journey we had taken and the lives we had touched. Listening to the tune, I realized that Eliza's story was not just about uncovering the past, but about embracing the present and looking forward to the future. The music box had opened my eyes to the beauty of discovery, the joy of connection, and the power of hope. As the last notes faded into silence, I knew that the adventure was far from over. The world was full of mysteries waiting to be explored, and I was ready to embrace them with open arms. The music box had been my guide, a beacon in the darkness, leading me to a deeper understanding of the world and myself. With a smile, I placed the music box back on the shelf, knowing that its melody would forever be a part of my life, a reminder of the journey that had begun with a single click on a mysterious website and had led to a discovery that changed everything. The echoes of the past had become a part of my future, a testament to the power of curiosity, compassion, and the unending quest for truth. And as I looked forward, I knew that the music box would continue to inspire me, guiding me toward new adventures and stories yet to be told. I was never one for conspiracy theories, UFO sightings, government cover-ups. It all seemed like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, far removed from the daily grind of my mundane existence. That was until one late-night browsing session when I stumbled upon something that would change my perspective forever. I've always been a bit of a night owl, using the late hours to explore the corners of the internet where few dared to tread. On this particular night, I found myself wandering into the shadowy depths of the dark web. I knew I was venturing into a place where curiosity wasn't always rewarded, but my intrigue often outweighed my caution. That's when I saw it, a link with the unassuming title, Area 51 Livestream. My heart skipped a beat. Was this a prank? A hoax? I almost dismissed it as another internet joke, but something compelled me to click on it. The page loaded slowly, as if deciding whether I was worthy of its secrets. The stream flickered to life, revealing a grainy black and white feed. The camera panned over a desolate, fenced-off landscape that looked suspiciously like the famous Nevada testing site. I leaned closer to the screen, heart pounding in my chest. The camera then shifted indoors, revealing dimly lit corridors lined with heavy doors. At first, I saw nothing out of the ordinary, just empty rooms and abandoned equipment. But then, the camera paused, zooming in on a particular door with a heavy padlock. I watched, breathless, as someone off-screen unlocked the door and swung it open to reveal a room filled with bizarre machinery and glowing screens. My eyes widened as I saw something move in the corner. It was an alien, or at least it looked like one. Humanoid, but distinctly otherworldly. It was strapped to a table, wires and tubes snaking from its body. I felt a chill run down my spine. This couldn't be real. And yet, the way it writhed and blinked in the harsh fluorescent light was disturbingly convincing. The chat on the side of the screen was buzzing with messages from other viewers, most of whom seemed equally horrified and fascinated. Amidst the chaos, a message appeared, highlighted in red. "Welcome, new viewer. You have been chosen." I froze, a sense of unease creeping over me. How did they know I was here? I was just another anonymous observer, hidden behind a VPN and a wall of digital anonymity. But as I watched, more personal messages started appearing, each more unsettling than the last. "Hello, my name. Enjoying the show?" I gasped, my blood running cold. I hadn't entered any information. How could they possibly know who I was? I glanced around my dimly lit room, half expecting to find someone watching me. The stream continued, showing more unsettling footage of strange creatures and experiments, each more chilling than the last. Yet the messages kept coming, each one revealing more personal details, my address, my job, even the names of my family members. It was as if the person behind the stream was pulling back a curtain on my life, exposing every detail to the glaring light of the screen. The final message was the most chilling of all. "Prepare yourself. The uprising is coming and you have a role to play." My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I quickly closed the browser, shutting down my computer in a blind panic. I felt exposed, like a spotlight had been turned on me in the dead of night. I spent the rest of the night pacing, jumping at every sound, convinced that at any moment, someone or something would come for me. I wanted to believe it was all just a bad dream, a figment of my overactive imagination. But deep down, I knew what I had seen was real, and somehow, I was involved. The following day, the events of the previous night felt like a bad dream. I found myself trying to convince myself that the Area 51 stream was nothing more than an elaborate hoax, but the creeping feeling of unease refused to leave me alone. At work, I was distracted, unable to focus on my tasks. My mind kept drifting back to the images I had seen on my computer screen. The alien creature strapped to the table, the cryptic messages revealing my personal information, and the ominous warning about a planned uprising haunted me. As soon as I got home, I checked all the locks on my doors and windows. It was an irrational response, I knew, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I spent the evening nervously glancing at my phone, half expecting another message to appear, but nothing happened. The night dragged on in silence. I tried to distract myself with a movie, but every shadow in the room seemed to move, and every creak of the house made my heart jump. Finally, unable to take it any longer, I went to bed, hoping sleep would bring some relief. That night, I had a nightmare. I was back in the lab from the stream, watching the alien creatures stir restlessly in their confinement. The walls seemed to pulse with a low, rhythmic hum that matched the beat of my heart. Suddenly the lights flickered, and the creatures turned their eyes towards me, their expressions filled with an eerie understanding. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart racing. It was only a dream, I reminded myself. Just a dream. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling, trying to calm myself. Just as I was drifting off again, I heard a noise, a soft tapping coming from the window. My heart froze. The tapping continued, steady and insistent. I forced myself out of bed, my feet cold against the floor. Slowly, I approached the window and pulled back the curtain. Nothing. The street outside was empty, the only movement the rustling leaves in the breeze. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and closed the curtain, telling myself it was probably just a branch hitting the glass. The next morning, I awoke to find an envelope slipped under my door. My hands trembled as I picked it up. There was no return address, no markings of any kind, just my name scrawled in bold block letters across the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Printed on it were coordinates, and beneath them, a message. "You have been chosen. Meet us." My stomach twisted in knots. I was terrified, yet part of me was curious. What could this all mean? Why had I been singled out? I considered ignoring it, but the curiosity was too strong to resist. I spent the day researching the coordinates, trying to figure out where they might lead. As it turned out, they pointed to a remote area in the Nevada desert, not far from the fabled Area 51. My mind raced with possibilities, each more outlandish than the last. The day passed in a blur, my mind consumed with thoughts of the mysterious invitation. By evening, I had made a decision. I needed to know what was going on, and this seemed to be my only chance to find out. I packed a small bag, trying to prepare for whatever I might encounter. I knew it was risky, maybe even foolish, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something significant, something that went beyond the realm of ordinary life. As I left my apartment, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The world outside seemed unchanged, but I knew that everything was different now. I was stepping into a reality I never knew existed, one where the boundaries of what I thought possible were being tested. The drive to Nevada was long and filled with anticipation. As the city lights faded behind me, I felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. What lay ahead was unknown, but one thing was certain. I was no longer just a passive observer. I was now part of a story that was unfolding, a story that might just change everything I thought I knew. As I drove through the desolate Nevada landscape, the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The coordinates were plugged into my GPS, guiding me deeper into the desert. With each passing mile, the reality of what I was doing sank in. I was heading toward a place shrouded in mystery, chasing whispers and shadows. The road eventually turned into a dirt path, barely visible under the dim glow of my headlights. I couldn't help but feel like I was entering a world beyond my understanding. The air was thick with anticipation, and I found myself gripping the steering wheel tighter, my mind racing with questions. What would I find out here? Would anyone even meet me, or was this all some elaborate prank? Finally, I arrived at the coordinates. I parked the car and stepped out, the cool desert air brushing against my skin. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by the distant call of a coyote. I looked around, trying to find any sign of life, but the landscape was empty, save for the rugged terrain stretching as far as the eye could see. A sense of isolation washed over me. There was no turning back now. I had to see this through. I took a deep breath and began walking in the direction that felt right, hoping my instincts wouldn't lead me astray. After what felt like an eternity of wandering, I stumbled upon something unexpected, a small unmarked building nestled among the rocks. It was unassuming, almost invisible against the backdrop of the desert. I hesitated for a moment, debating whether to approach, but my curiosity was too strong. As I got closer, I noticed a faint light emanating from a window. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the door, unsure of what I would find on the other side. I paused, took a deep breath, and knocked. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with monitors and electronic equipment. My eyes were immediately drawn to the screens, each displaying different feeds of what looked like Area 51. My mind reeled. This was the real deal. "Welcome," a voice said, pulling my attention from the screens. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, lean man with an air of authority. He didn't look like the sinister villain I had imagined. Instead, He had the demeanor of someone who had seen too much. "You're probably wondering why you're here," he continued, gesturing for me to sit. I hesitated but obliged, eager for answers. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why me?" The man leaned forward, his eyes intense. "You've been watching the stream. You've seen things the world isn't ready for. But we need people like you, people who can spread the truth when the time comes." I frowned, trying to make sense of his words. "What truth?" He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. "There's an uprising coming, a shift in power that will change everything. The creatures you saw, they're not prisoners. They're refugees, seeking asylum from a world that's rejected them." My mind spun with possibilities, each more far-fetched than the last. This wasn't just about aliens. It was about something much bigger. "And you want me to help?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The man nodded. "We need allies, people who can bridge the gap between our worlds. You've been chosen for a reason. Your involvement is crucial." A part of me wanted to laugh, to dismiss his words as nonsense. But another part of me, the part that had felt drawn to this mystery from the start, couldn't deny the truth in his eyes. "What do I have to do?" I asked, the weight of my decision settling on my shoulders. He smiled, a hint of relief in his expression. "For now, just be aware, watch, listen, and when the time comes, help us spread the truth." As I left the building, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. I had come seeking answers, but I left with more questions than ever. The desert stretched out before me, vast and unknowable, much like the path I now found myself on. Driving back through the dark, empty roads, I couldn't help but wonder what I had gotten myself into. The world was the same as it had always been, yet everything felt different. I was no longer just an observer. I was part of a story that was unfolding, a story that could change everything. The days following my encounter in the desert were a blur of uncertainty and introspection. I returned to my routine, but everything felt slightly off-kilter, like the world had shifted in subtle but profound ways. My thoughts constantly drifted back to the strange meeting and the man's cryptic words about bridging worlds and spreading the truth. Despite my efforts to resume normalcy, I found myself drawn back to the dark web, hoping to find more clues about the mysterious stream. Each time I logged on, I felt a mix of trepidation and anticipation, wondering if the feed would reappear or if I would receive more unsettling messages. But the screen remained blank, offering no further insights or warnings. One evening, as I sat at my desk, a notification popped up on my screen. It was from an anonymous sender, a simple message with an attachment labeled, "For your eyes only." I hesitated, my heart racing as I clicked to open it. The attachment contained a series of images and videos, each more incredible than the last. The first was a photograph of the alien I had seen in the stream, but this time it was free, standing amidst a group of humans, all working together in what appeared to be a laboratory. They seemed to be collaborating, discussing something of great importance. The next video showed the alien gesturing to a holographic map, highlighting areas of Earth with bright, pulsing lights. As I watched, the voice of the man from the desert played over the footage, explaining that these lights represented locations of critical importance, places where changes were already underway. I couldn't help but be captivated by the potential implications. The idea that aliens were not just visiting Earth, but were actively involved in its future, was both thrilling and terrifying. It was a paradigm shift, challenging everything I thought I knew about our place in the universe. The final image was a map with a single location circled in red, my hometown. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the significance. Whatever was happening, it was coming to my doorstep. The thought of being at the epicenter of such a monumental event was overwhelming, but there was also a strange sense of destiny. As I processed this information, another message arrived. "Prepare, they are coming." My mind was a whirlwind of possibilities, each more incredible than the last. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself, but who would believe me? The world wasn't ready for this kind of revelation, and yet the urgency of the message made it clear that the time for silence was over. I spent the next few days reaching out to those I trusted, carefully choosing my words as I shared what I had learned. Some were skeptical, dismissing my claims as fantasy, while others listened with wide-eyed wonder, their imaginations sparked by the possibilities. The more I spoke about it, the more real it became. I found myself forming connections with others who had experienced similar encounters, a network of individuals united by a shared purpose. We began to strategize, brainstorming ways to prepare for the coming changes and ensure that when the time was right, the truth would be revealed. Despite the gravity of the situation, there was an undeniable sense of excitement. We were on the cusp of something extraordinary, a moment in history that could redefine humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. As the days passed, I found myself looking to the sky more often, wondering what was out there and what role I would play in the unfolding events. The world was changing, and I was part of it. A bridge between two worlds, tasked with helping usher in a new era of understanding and cooperation. While I couldn't predict what the future held, one thing was certain. I was no longer just a passive observer in the story of my life. I was an active participant, ready to embrace whatever came next with open eyes and an open heart. The days turned into weeks, and the anticipation in the air was palpable. My small group of newfound allies and I worked tirelessly, preparing ourselves for whatever was to come. We met regularly, sharing information, theories, and plans, our meetings filled with a sense of urgency and purpose. Despite our efforts, the exact nature of the upcoming events remained shrouded in mystery. One evening, as I sat in my living room, a new notification appeared on my screen. This time it was a live feed from the mysterious group that had contacted me before. The feed showed a gathering of people, much like our own meetings, but on a much larger scale. There were hundreds of people, each one representing a different part of the world, each one sharing the same determination to make a difference. The man from the desert appeared again, his presence commanding and reassuring. He spoke directly to the camera, addressing the entire network of individuals who had been brought into this secret. His words resonated with hope and a call to action. "The time has come," he said. "The truth must be revealed. Together, we can change the world. It's not just about aliens or hidden agendas. It's about understanding and embracing the unknown. We have been chosen to lead the way, to show humanity that we are not alone, and that there is much to learn from those who have traveled the stars." His words sent a thrill down my spine. This was it, the moment we had been preparing for. As the feed continued, he outlined a plan to share our knowledge with the world, to unveil the hidden truths that had been kept from the public for so long. The idea was simple yet profound, an event broadcast worldwide showcasing the reality of the alien presence and the potential for collaboration and understanding. Our group was tasked with organizing a local gathering, a microcosm of the larger event. We set to work, contacting those who were interested, spreading the word through channels both overt and covert. The goal was to reach as many people as possible, to open their minds to the reality that had been kept hidden for so long. The night of the event arrived, and I stood before a crowd of eager faces, each one filled with curiosity and anticipation. Our gathering was modest, held in a local community center, but the energy in the room was electric. People whispered in excitement, their eyes alight with the promise of discovery. As the global broadcast began, we watched in awe as the events unfolded on the big screen. Representatives from various groups spoke, sharing their experiences and knowledge. They introduced us to the aliens, who appeared not as invaders, but as allies, offering insights into technology, medicine, and culture that could benefit humanity. I felt a sense of pride and relief wash over me as I watched the reactions of those around me. There was skepticism, of course, but also wonder and hope. The world was beginning to change, the boundaries of our understanding expanding to include the stars. In the days that followed, the ripple effects of the event were felt worldwide. Debates erupted, discussions flourished, and a new era of exploration and cooperation began. The fear that had once surrounded the unknown was slowly replaced by curiosity and a desire for connection. For me, life returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the experience had left an indelible mark on my soul. I had stepped into the unknown and emerged with a newfound sense of purpose. I was no longer just a passive observer, but a participant in a story that transcended borders and worlds. As I looked to the future, I knew there would be challenges and setbacks, but there was also the promise of adventure and discovery. We had taken the first steps toward a future where humanity was not alone, where the mysteries of the universe were within our grasp, waiting to be explored. And as I gazed up at the night sky, I felt a connection to the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, new friends and allies were watching, just as eager as we were to build a brighter tomorrow. Hey everyone, I've been sitting on this story for a while, unsure if I should share it or keep it to myself. But the recent threats have made it clear that I need to get this out there. Maybe you'll think it's fiction, maybe not, but all I can say is, this is my truth. It all started a few months ago when I stumbled upon a dark web forum dedicated to exploring the uncharted parts of our world. I'm an amateur explorer at heart, always looking for the next great adventure. Most threads were typical, lost cities, forgotten relics, but one caught my eye. The alien temple of the Amazon. The post detailed an ancient temple deep in the Amazon rainforest, allegedly built by extraterrestrial beings and guarded by a mysterious tribe. The thread was filled with tales of glowing hieroglyphics, strange technology, and people who entered the jungle but never returned. I was hooked. The idea of discovering something otherworldly was too tempting to resist. I spent nights going through every post, following the breadcrumb trail of rumors and half-remembered maps. The more I read, the more obsessed I became. I even found a few cryptic messages hinting that this temple held technology far beyond our understanding, stuff that could revolutionize our world. After weeks of research, I decided to take the plunge. With some saved-up money, I booked a flight to Manaus, the gateway to the Amazon, equipped with nothing more than a backpack, some basic camping gear, and a sketchy map I pieced together from various posts. I set off into the jungle. The Amazon is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The dense canopy blocked out the sun, casting eerie shadows that danced with the whispering wind. The sounds of the jungle were alive, birds chirping, insects buzzing, and the distant roar of unknown animals. My heart raced with each step as the reality of my adventure set in. I was alone, surrounded by miles of untouched wilderness, with only my instincts and a flimsy map to guide me. Days passed in a blur of green and sweat. I followed the map as best as I could, navigating by the sun and the occasional landmark. Every night I set up a small camp, huddling in my tent as the jungle came alive with nocturnal creatures. It was on the fourth night that I first heard the chanting. It was faint, barely audible over the symphony of the jungle, but unmistakably human. My heart pounded as I strained to listen. Could it be the tribe mentioned in the forum? Driven by equal parts fear and curiosity, I quietly packed up my camp and moved toward the sound. The chanting grew louder, rhythmic and hypnotic, drawing me deeper into the heart of the jungle. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. My breath caught in my throat as I took in the sight before me. A massive stone temple, overgrown with vines yet undeniably majestic, stood in the center of the clearing. Around it, a group of people moved in a slow, deliberate dance, their faces painted with strange symbols. They wore simple clothes adorned with feathers and beads, and their eyes held a serene, otherworldly glow. I crouched behind a bush, barely daring to breathe. Was this the tribe from the forum? As I watched, the chanting reached a crescendo, and a figure stepped forward, a tall man, older than the others with an air of authority. He held a small glowing orb in his hand which pulsed with a soft blue light. The tribe members knelt before him as he raised the orb to the sky, and I felt an inexplicable pull toward it, a magnetic force that seemed to resonate with the very air around me. Suddenly, the orb flared brighter, and I felt a sharp pain in my head, as if 1,000 voices were whispering secrets directly into my mind. I staggered backward, trying to process the overwhelming sensation. In my haste, I snapped a twig underfoot, and the sound echoed through the clearing like a gunshot. The chanting stopped abruptly, and dozens of eyes turned toward my hiding spot. My heart leaped into my throat as I realized I had been discovered. Before I could react, 2 tribe members rushed forward, their expressions unreadable but not hostile. I raised my hands, trying to show I meant no harm, and stammered out a greeting in broken Portuguese, hoping they understood. To my surprise, the older man stepped forward, speaking in accented English. "You are not the first to come seeking the temple," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "But you must understand, this place is not what it seems. It is not for outsiders." His words hung in the air, heavy with warning. I was at a crossroads, tempted to run, yet compelled to learn more. There was something in the way he spoke, a hint of sadness, perhaps a plea for understanding. I decided to take a leap of faith. "I don't mean any harm," I said, my voice barely steady. "I just want to learn." The man studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "You may see the temple, but you must promise to keep its secrets." I agreed, though I had no idea what that entailed. He gestured for me to follow, and the tribe parted to let us pass. As we approached the temple, I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The stone steps were cool underfoot, and the air seemed to hum with energy. Inside, the temple was dimly lit by the same bluish glow from the orb. Strange symbols covered the walls, unlike any language I'd ever seen, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were somehow alive, shifting and changing as I watched. The man led me to a central chamber where a massive stone altar stood. Atop it lay what looked like a piece of alien technology, a sleek metallic device pulsing with the same eerie light. "This is what you came for," the man said softly, "but be warned, it holds power beyond human comprehension. Use it wisely, or not at all." I stared at the device, a mixture of awe and dread swirling in my chest. This was it, the discovery of a lifetime. But as I reached out to touch it, a vision flashed in my mind, cities crumbling, skies darkening, a world teetering on the brink of chaos. I jerked my hand back, breathless and shaken. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The man sighed, a heavy sound filled with centuries of knowledge and burden. "It is a gift and a curse. It can heal or destroy depending on the heart of the one who wields it." I knew then that this was no ordinary adventure. I had stumbled upon something ancient and powerful, something that could change everything. But with that power came responsibility and danger. Before I could ask more, the man gestured for me to leave. "You have seen enough for now. Return when you are ready to understand." With a final lingering glance at the device, I followed him out of the temple. The tribe watched silently as I made my way back into the jungle, their eyes filled with an understanding I couldn't yet grasp. As I trekked back to civilization, the weight of what I had seen pressed on my mind. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself, yet I feared the consequences of revealing such a secret to the world. And then the messages started. Anonymous emails and calls, each more threatening than the last, warning me to stay silent. I felt the invisible eyes watching, felt the noose tightening around my freedom. I don't know who or what is behind these threats, but I know I can't hide forever. I need to decide if the truth is worth the risk. If you're reading this, know that the world is far more mysterious than we dare to imagine. Stay safe, and choose your path wisely. Returning from the Amazon was like waking from a dream, but the memory of the temple lingered, refusing to fade. I thought I could slip back into normal life, but the weight of what I'd discovered pressed down on me, a constant reminder that nothing would ever be the same. My inbox filled with more anonymous threats, urging me to remain silent, to forget what I'd seen. But the more they tried to intimidate me, the more I realized how important it was to share my story. I started to research the temple's origins, trying to understand the significance of the alien technology I had seen. My search led me to obscure libraries and hidden corners of the internet, where whispers of ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial visitors intertwined with folklore and myth. The deeper I dug, the more convinced I became that the temple was part of a larger, forgotten history. The pieces started to fit together, stories of gods descending from the stars, bringing knowledge and power to early humans. Could it be that these gods were, in fact, aliens, sharing their advanced technology with select tribes? The implications were staggering, suggesting that human progress was not entirely our own doing. Driven by curiosity and a need for answers, I reached out to experts in archaeology and anthropology, hoping to find someone willing to listen without dismissing me as a conspiracy theorist. I found Dr. Emily Hayes, a professor specializing in ancient cultures and myths, who had written extensively about lost civilizations and their mysterious disappearances. I emailed her, explaining my discovery in vague terms, avoiding the more unbelievable details. To my surprise, she responded quickly, intrigued by my claims and eager to meet. We arranged to meet at a cafe in a quiet part of town, where I hoped the hum of conversation and clinking cups would shield our discussion from prying ears. Dr. Hayes was a tall, elegant woman in her 50s, with keen eyes that seemed to see through my hesitations and doubts. Over coffee, I shared my story, trying to convey the gravity of what I had experienced without sounding unhinged. "Extraordinary," she murmured, tapping a pen against her notebook. "If what you're saying is true, this could redefine our understanding of history." I nodded, relieved that she believed me. "But I don't know how to prove it," I admitted. "All I have are my memories and a map that's probably useless now." Dr. Hayes leaned back, considering. "There have been whispers of alien involvement in ancient cultures for years, but the evidence has always been circumstantial at best. This could be the breakthrough we need. But you must be careful," she warned, lowering her voice. "There are those who would go to great lengths to keep such knowledge hidden." Her words echoed the threats I'd received, a reminder that my curiosity had put me in danger. Still, the desire to uncover the truth burned within me. We discussed the possibility of organizing an expedition, discreetly assembling a team to verify my story. Dr. Hayes promised to reach out to trusted colleagues who might be interested in joining our quest. She also suggested we enlist the help of a seasoned guide familiar with the Amazon, someone who could navigate the treacherous terrain and negotiate with local tribes. As we parted, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We had a plan, and with Dr. Hayes' expertise, I was confident we could uncover the temple's secrets. But the excitement was tempered by a growing paranoia. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that each shadow held a pair of eyes tracking my every move. The threats continued to escalate, each more menacing than the last. I received a package at my doorstep, a simple box containing a single feather from the Amazonian tribe. It was a clear message. They knew where I lived. Panic gripped me, and I realized I needed to be more cautious. I installed security cameras around my apartment and changed my daily routines, hoping to shake off whoever might be following me. Nights became restless, filled with dreams of the temple and its glowing hieroglyphs. I often woke in a cold sweat, convinced that the walls were whispering secrets I couldn't understand. As the days passed, my world grew smaller. Friends and family noticed my withdrawn demeanor, but I couldn't bring myself to explain. How could I make them understand the weight of what I carried without endangering them too? Amidst the tension, Dr. Hayes sent an encrypted message. She had found 2 colleagues willing to join our expedition. One was an expert in ancient languages, capable of deciphering the symbols I had described. The other was a tech specialist, skilled in analyzing advanced technology and its potential applications. Our team was coming together, and soon we would be ready to embark on this monumental journey. But as the departure date approached, the threats became more specific. They knew about the expedition, about Dr. Hayes, even the identities of the other team members. It was clear that we were being watched, but by whom? Was it the tribe, trying to protect their sacred site, or was it a shadowy organization with vested interests in keeping such discoveries under wraps? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I knew we couldn't back down now. As I lay awake one night, I received a chilling message on my computer. The screen flickered, then displayed a simple, stark warning. This is your final chance. Walk away, or suffer the consequences. My heart raced as I stared at the words, understanding that this was no idle threat. Whoever was behind it had the means and motivation to follow through. But I also realized that if they were so desperate to silence us, we must be on the right track. The next morning, I met with Dr. Hayes, sharing the latest threat and expressing my fears. She listened intently, then placed a reassuring hand on my arm. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," she said, "but some truths are worth fighting for." Her resolve strengthened my own, and together we finalized the details of our expedition. With careful planning and the right precautions, we hoped to reach the temple and unlock its secrets before those who wished to stop us could act. As we prepared to depart, I felt a mix of fear and excitement, knowing that the next chapter of our adventure was about to begin. Whatever awaited us in the Amazon, we would face it together, determined to reveal the truth hidden within the alien temple. The day of our departure arrived, and I felt a strange mix of anticipation and apprehension as we gathered at the airport. Our team consisted of Dr. Emily Hayes, the archaeology professor who believed in the significance of our discovery, Dr. James Carter, an expert in ancient languages and symbology, and Laura Kim, a tech specialist known for her work with cutting-edge technology. Each brought a unique skill set that would be vital for our expedition's success. We flew into Manaus, where we met Antonio, our guide. He was a seasoned explorer with a deep understanding of the Amazon's terrain and its hidden dangers. His rugged appearance and calm demeanor instilled confidence as we began our journey into the jungle. Our first few days were grueling. The Amazon was a living entity, vibrant and untamed. We trekked through dense foliage, our path often obscured by tangled vines and thick underbrush. The air was humid and heavy with the scent of earth and greenery, and the sounds of wildlife filled the air, a constant reminder of the jungle's untamed nature. Antonio led us with unwavering certainty, often stopping to point out signs of the tribe's presence. A series of stones arranged in a pattern, symbols carved into trees, and remnants of offerings left in hidden clearings. These markers reassured us that we were on the right path, yet they also reminded us of the tribe's watchful eyes. Each night, we set up camp, gathering around the fire to discuss our plans and observations. Dr. Carter shared his insights on the symbols I had described, linking them to ancient scripts and forgotten languages. His excitement was contagious, and he often sketched interpretations in his notebook, marveling at the connections between our world and the one hinted at in the temple. Laura, meanwhile, worked tirelessly to ensure our equipment was functional and secure. She was particularly interested in the alien device I had described, theorizing about its potential applications and the technology required to create such a thing. Her enthusiasm and expertise reassured us that we were on the brink of something extraordinary. Dr. Hayes served as our anchor, her calm leadership guiding us through the challenges of the expedition. Her passion for uncovering the truth about our past and its implications for our future fueled our determination. As we ventured deeper into the jungle, the terrain became more challenging. We crossed rivers, navigated steep hillsides, and battled swarms of insects, all while keeping an eye out for the tribe that protected the temple. Antonio, ever vigilant, instructed us in the ways of the jungle, teaching us how to blend in and avoid unwanted attention. One afternoon, as we pushed through a particularly dense thicket, we stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a massive stone obelisk, covered in the same glowing hieroglyphs I had seen at the temple. We approached cautiously, marveling at the intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Dr. Carter was enthralled, running his fingers over the symbols, his eyes wide with wonder. "This is incredible," he breathed. "These inscriptions are unlike anything we've seen before." Laura examined the obelisk with her equipment, capturing images and data for further analysis. "The energy readings are off the charts," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "This isn't just a relic, it's a source of power." We spent hours in the clearing, documenting every detail and theorizing about the obelisk's purpose. Dr. Hayes speculated that it might serve as a waypoint, guiding those who sought the temple and its secrets. Antonio, however, remained watchful, reminding us that we were intruders in a sacred place. As evening approached, we decided to camp nearby, eager to continue our exploration in the morning. The jungle seemed to embrace us, its canopy forming a protective barrier against the outside world. I lay in my tent, the night alive with the sounds of the Amazon, my mind racing with possibilities. The next day, we resumed our journey, following the obelisk's clues and Antonio's instincts. The path became increasingly treacherous, but our resolve never wavered. We were driven by a shared purpose, a quest to uncover the truth and bring it back to the world. At last, after days of relentless trekking, we reached the temple. It was as awe-inspiring as I remembered, its stone facade hidden beneath a veil of vines and foliage. The tribe stood at the entrance, their expressions a mix of curiosity and caution. The elder, the same man I had met before, stepped forward, speaking in his resonant voice. "You have returned as we knew you would. The temple welcomes those who seek knowledge with pure intent." We entered the temple as a group, our hearts pounding with anticipation. The air was thick with energy, the walls glowing with symbols that seemed to speak in a language of their own. In the central chamber, the alien device awaited us, its pulsing light casting eerie shadows. Dr. Carter and Laura approached it with reverence, eager to study its intricacies. As they began their analysis, the rest of us gathered around, a sense of awe and responsibility filling the space. This was it, the culmination of our journey and the beginning of a new chapter in our understanding of history. We were standing on the brink of discovery, ready to unveil the secrets of the temple and its alien technology. But as we delved deeper into our research, I couldn't shake the feeling that our actions would have far-reaching consequences. The power contained within the temple was immense, capable of transforming our world or bringing about its destruction. Our expedition had only just begun, and the mysteries of the temple awaited us. Yet as we worked tirelessly to unravel its secrets, I knew we had to tread carefully, for the path ahead was uncertain, and the stakes were higher than any of us had imagined. The temple's inner chamber was like nothing we had ever encountered, a marvel of ancient engineering that seemed both familiar and otherworldly. The alien device at the heart of the temple was the centerpiece of our research. It shimmered with an inner light, its surface etched with symbols that defied easy interpretation. Our task was daunting, but we were determined to uncover its secrets. Dr. Carter, with his expertise in ancient languages, took the lead in deciphering the hieroglyphs that adorned the walls and the device itself. He worked meticulously, cross-referencing his notes with texts from forgotten civilizations. "These symbols," he explained one evening, "appear to be a universal language, one that transcends the boundaries of time and culture. They hint at a deeper connection between human history and these celestial visitors." Laura focused on the device, using her equipment to analyze its structure and energy output. "The technology is incredibly advanced," she marveled. "It's like nothing we've seen before, capable of generating immense power without any known fuel source. If we could replicate even a fraction of this technology, it could revolutionize the world." Dr. Hayes documented our findings, her notebook filled with sketches and observations. She was particularly interested in the temple's architecture, noting its similarities to structures found in other parts of the world. "There's a shared design language here," she said, pointing to a series of carvings. "It suggests a network of ancient sites, each connected by this technology." Our days were filled with discovery and wonder, each new revelation adding to our understanding of the temple's significance. The tribe, watching from the shadows, seemed to sense our purpose and allowed us to continue our work without interference. The elder, in particular, observed us with an enigmatic expression, as if weighing the consequences of our presence. One evening, as we gathered around a small campfire, Antonio shared stories of the jungle and its mysteries. His tales were steeped in folklore, blending myth with reality. "The Amazon is a place of great power," he said, his voice low and resonant. "Many believe it to be a bridge between worlds, where the past and future collide. The temple is a testament to that belief, a guardian of secrets not meant for all." His words resonated with us, a reminder of the responsibility we carried. We were on the brink of understanding something profound, yet the implications of our discovery were daunting. As we discussed our findings, the tribe's chants echoed in the distance, a rhythmic reminder of the temple's sacred nature. The more we learned, the more we realized how interconnected our world truly was. The technology within the temple was a gift and a challenge, a test of humanity's ability to wield such power wisely. We debated the ethics of our discovery. The potential benefits weighed against the risks. Laura, ever the pragmatist, argued for caution. "We need to be careful about what we reveal," she insisted. "The wrong people could exploit this technology, causing more harm than good." Dr. Hayes agreed, advocating for a balanced approach. "We have a duty to protect this knowledge, to ensure it's used for the betterment of humanity. But we must also respect the tribe's role as guardians." Dr. Carter, however, was eager to share our findings with the world. "This could change everything," he said passionately. "We can't keep something this significant hidden away." I found myself torn, caught between the desire to unveil the truth and the fear of unleashing forces beyond our control. As I sat by the fire, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here, the risks we'd taken and the bonds we'd forged. Our expedition had become more than a quest for knowledge. It was a test of our values and our vision for the future. The following day, the elder approached us, his expression solemn, yet understanding. "You have seen much," he said, his voice carrying the weight of history. "But remember, knowledge is a double-edged sword. Use it wisely, and it will guide you. Abuse it, and it will consume you." His words echoed in my mind as we continued our work, a reminder of the delicate balance we needed to maintain. We were privileged to stand at the crossroads of history, but with that privilege came a responsibility to ensure our actions served the greater good. As our expedition drew to a close, we knew we had only scratched the surface of the temple's mysteries. There was so much more to explore, so many questions left unanswered. But we also understood the importance of caution and respect for the temple and its guardians. We packed our findings and prepared to return to the world beyond the jungle, each of us changed by the experience. The tribe watched us with a mix of curiosity and acceptance, their role as stewards of this ancient site reaffirmed. As we left the Amazon, I felt a sense of accomplishment and a lingering sense of uncertainty. We had uncovered a glimpse of a history long forgotten, a legacy of wisdom and power that could shape the future. But how we chose to use that knowledge remained to be seen. Our journey was far from over, and the challenges ahead were daunting. Yet with the support of my team and the guidance of the tribe, I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. We had taken the first step into a new world, and there was no turning back. Returning to civilization felt surreal after our time in the Amazon. The hustle and bustle of the city contrasted sharply with the tranquility of the jungle, yet the weight of our discovery never left us. Each of us carried a piece of the temple's mystery, its significance echoing in our thoughts and conversations. Dr. Hayes and I spent countless hours compiling our research, organizing the data and observations we had gathered. We were meticulous in our approach, understanding the sensitivity of our findings and the potential consequences of sharing them with the world. Our goal was clear: to reveal the truth while safeguarding the knowledge that had been entrusted to us. Laura and Dr. Carter continued to analyze the technology we had documented, their expertise uncovering layers of complexity that hinted at possibilities beyond our imagination. The device's potential applications were staggering: renewable energy, advanced medical treatments, even space travel. But we knew we had to proceed carefully, ensuring that this knowledge would be used responsibly. We decided to present our findings to a select group of experts, individuals we trusted to understand the significance of our work and to act with integrity. We organized a small conference, inviting leaders in archaeology, technology, and ethics to discuss the implications of our discovery. The conference was held in a discreet location, away from prying eyes. Our presentation was met with a mix of awe and skepticism as our colleagues grappled with the reality of what we had uncovered. Dr. Carter's passion shone through as he explained the symbols and their connections to ancient cultures, while Laura demonstrated the potential applications of the technology. Dr. Hayes emphasized the ethical considerations, urging caution and responsibility in how we approached this new frontier. "We must remember," she said, "that knowledge is a gift that comes with great responsibility. We have a duty to protect it and to use it for the benefit of all humanity." The discussions were intense, filled with debate and differing opinions. Some argued for immediate disclosure, believing that transparency was essential. Others cautioned against revealing too much too quickly, fearing the consequences of such powerful knowledge falling into the wrong hands. Throughout the conference, I felt a growing sense of purpose. We had the opportunity to change the world, to unlock secrets that could redefine our understanding of history and our place in the universe. But we also faced a daunting challenge: ensuring that our actions reflected the values we held dear. As the conference concluded, a consensus began to emerge. We would form a coalition of experts dedicated to further exploring the temple's secrets while maintaining the utmost discretion. Our mission was to ensure that this knowledge would be used to benefit humanity, fostering innovation and understanding without compromising its integrity. With the support of our new allies, we returned to our respective fields, each of us driven by the responsibility we had assumed. We continued our research, guided by the lessons we had learned and the bonds we had forged in the Amazon. In the months that followed, the threats I had once feared began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and community. The tribe's role as guardians remained vital, their wisdom and insight guiding our efforts as we sought to honor their traditions and protect the temple's legacy. As I reflected on our journey, I realized that our expedition had been more than a quest for knowledge. It was a testament to the power of collaboration and the resilience of the human spirit. We had ventured into the unknown, facing challenges and uncertainties with courage and determination. The alien temple in the Amazon had revealed a glimpse of a greater reality, a world where science and mythology intertwined, and where the past held the keys to the future. We stood at the threshold of discovery, ready to unlock the secrets of the universe and to share them with a world hungry for knowledge. Our adventure had changed us, shaping our understanding of history and our place in the cosmos. We were united by a shared vision, determined to honor the legacy of those who had come before us and to build a future worthy of their gifts. As I looked to the horizon, I knew that our journey was far from over. The temple's mysteries beckoned, inviting us to continue exploring, to push the boundaries of what we knew, and to embrace the unknown. We were explorers, pioneers on a path forged by courage and curiosity, ready to embark on the next chapter of our extraordinary adventure.